Imagine you could walk into a room and, within 5 seconds, possess a kind of psychological radar, a quiet, inner signal that alerts you to emotional danger before it can even take root. Imagine an internal compass that could differentiate between a safe harbor and a treacherous coastline, long before you ever risk running aground. This isn't science fiction. This is the forgotten language of your own intuition. And today, we're going to learn how to hear it speak again, that we live in a world that talks endlessly about toxic people. The term is everywhere, describing the subtle poisons that can seep into our lives through work, friendships, and even our most intimate relationships. We read about gaslighting, a disorienting fog of manipulation that makes you question your own sanity. We hear about narcissism, a gravitational black hole of ego that consumes all light around it. The emotional cost of these encounters is immense, leaving behind a wake of anxiety, confusion, and shattered self-worth. We often only recognize the trap once the door has already swung shut behind us. But what if there was a way to see the architecture of the trap before you ever stepped inside? For this, we turn not to a modern self-help guru, but to a master cartographer of the human soul, Carl Jung. The Swiss psychiatrist was more than a scientist. He was an explorer of the vast, uncharted territories of the unconscious mind. And hidden within his complex, profound body of work is a principle so simple, yet so powerful, it can serve as a potent tool for self-preservation. This is what we will call Jung's 5-second test. It isn't a checklist or a quiz you can find in his books. It is a practical application of his most foundational ideas, a way to harness your own deep psychology to detect the dissonant frequency of a toxic personality in the first few moments of an encounter. It is the key to unlocking the most powerful survival tool you will ever possess. To understand how the 5-second test works, we first need to understand the battlefield of the human psyche. Jung provided us with a map, and on this map, there are 3 key territories we must navigate: the persona, the shadow, and the act of projection. First, let's talk about the persona. The word persona is Latin for mask, the kind worn by actors in ancient theater. For Jung, the persona is the socially acceptable mask we all wear. It is your professional self at work, your polite self at a dinner party, your confident self on a first date. The persona is not inherently bad or fake. It's a necessary tool for navigating a complex social world. It allows us to function smoothly, to interact with purpose, and to present the parts of ourselves best suited to a given situation. It's the polished armor we wear for the world. However, in the hands of a toxic individual, the persona is not just a tool. It is a weapon. Theirs is not merely a mask, but a meticulously crafted illusion, designed with a single purpose: to disarm, charm, and deceive. This persona is often flawless, even intoxicating. It's the charismatic leader who seems to have all the answers, the impossibly attentive new partner who mirrors your every dream, the friend who is the absolute life of every party. It can seem too good to be true, a perfectly polished surface with no fingerprints, no scratches, no signs of humanity. This perfection is the first clue, because it is designed to distract you from what lies beneath. And what lies beneath is the second key territory, the shadow. If the persona is the face we show the world, the shadow is everything we hide from it, and often from ourselves. The shadow is the unseen baggage we all carry. It is an unconscious repository for all the parts of ourselves we have repressed, denied, or deemed unacceptable. Our insecurities, our greed, our irrational anger, our shame, our deepest fears. Everyone has a shadow. It is an inescapable part of the human condition. A psychologically healthy person, on the journey Jung called individuation, learns to turn and face their shadow. They don't indulge it, but they acknowledge it. They work to understand it, to integrate its lessons, and to own its existence. This is the difficult, courageous work of becoming a whole person. The toxic individual, however, does the opposite. They refuse to acknowledge their shadow. They deny its existence with absolute conviction. Their immense psychic energy is spent not on integrating the shadow, but on ensuring its prison walls are thick and its existence is a secret. Their flawless persona is the beautiful facade built on top of this dungeon. But that repressed energy cannot be destroyed. It churns, it builds pressure, and it must escape. This brings us to our third concept, the shadow's primary weapon, projection. Because the toxic individual cannot bear to look at their own shadow, they do something psychologically ingenious and devastatingly destructive. They project it onto others. They see their own unacknowledged darkness in the people around them. Think of it like a film projector. The person is the projector, the dark, repressed traits are the film inside, and you, the target, are the blank screen they project their inner movie onto. The compulsive liar will be the first to accuse everyone around them of dishonesty. The deeply insecure bully will relentlessly mock others for being weak. The manipulative individual who is constantly playing games will claim that you are the one being manipulative. The person consumed by unacknowledged rage will perceive the calmest person in the room as hostile and aggressive. They are not just lying. On an unconscious level, they genuinely believe it. By casting you as the villain in their story, they get to remain the hero in their own mind. This act of projection is what creates the toxic environment. You find yourself defending against accusations that make no sense, entangled in dramas you didn't create, and feeling a pervasive sense of wrongness you can't quite name. This projected energy, this dissonance between the perfect mask and the ugly film being played, is exactly what your intuition is designed to detect. Now that we understand the tools, the persona, the shadow, and projection, we can assemble them into the 5-second test. Remember, this is an act of deep, instantaneous intuition. It's about listening to your body's wisdom before your analytical mind has a chance to talk you out of it. The test unfolds in 3 simple, silent steps. Step 1. Silence your mind. For the first 5 seconds of a new interaction, whether it's a handshake, a meeting, or the start of a conversation, you must consciously quiet your analytical brain. This is the part of you that is immediately cataloging their clothes, assessing their job title, judging their accent, or planning what you're going to say next to sound intelligent. For just 5 seconds, let all of that go. Become a receiver, not a transmitter. Create a space of inner stillness. This silence is crucial because your intuition speaks in a whisper and it can't be heard over the shouting of your conscious thoughts. Step 2. Observe their energy. With your mind quiet, you can now observe beyond the superficial. You are not listening to their words. You are feeling the space between them. Look directly but softly at their eyes. Do their eyes smile when their mouth does? A genuine smile, what scientists call a Duchenne smile, involves the muscles around the eyes. A hollow one does not. Is there warmth, or is it a performative gleam? Notice their body language. Is there a subtle, underlying tension in their shoulders or jaw, even as they speak relaxed words? Do they command the space around them in a way that feels domineering and imposing, or is it a natural confidence? Are they truly present with you, or does it feel like they are looking through you, as if scanning for data, for weaknesses, for something they can use? You're looking for congruence, a harmony between what they are projecting and what their body is actually saying. In a toxic individual, there's almost always a deep incongruity. Step 3. Scan your body. This is the most critical step, and it happens almost simultaneously with step 2. Immediately, turn your full attention inward. Ask one simple question. What does my body feel in this person's presence? Then listen. Your body is an incredibly sensitive instrument, and it will give you the raw, unfiltered data. This is where the results of the test manifest. The signals are often subtle, somatic markers. Do you feel a sudden tightening in your chest or a knot in the pit of your stomach? That is your body's primal threat detection system firing up. Do you feel an inexplicable wave of fatigue, a sudden desire to yawn, or a feeling of being drained? This is often called energy vampirism, and it's your system reacting to the immense psychic effort it takes to maintain a false persona and project a shadow. Do you feel a strange impulse to physically recoil or take a small step back? Your body is trying to create a safe distance from a perceived threat. Do the hairs on your arms or the back of your neck stand up? This is a classic archaic fear response, the kind our ancestors felt when a predator was near. Or perhaps it's a more psychological feeling, a sense of profound emptiness behind their charming words, a feeling of talking to a beautifully designed hologram with nothing inside, a feeling that something is just off. This gut feeling is not magic. Is high-speed data processing. In those first few seconds, your unconscious mind has processed thousands of nonverbal cues, microexpressions, vocal tone, pupil dilation, pheromones, energetic frequencies, and it has detected a critical error message. Warning: the data does not match. The flawless persona is not aligned with the chaotic, unintegrated shadow energy that is leaking out. Your ancient, primal brain is signaling a potential threat not to your physical body, but to your psychological well-being. This visceral response is the result of the 5-second test. This test is particularly adept at spotting a few common red flags in seconds, the hollow compliment. They shower you with flattery that feels unearned, excessive, or transactional. Your intuition registers this not as kindness, but as the calculated deployment of a tool, a crowbar to pry open your defenses, the probing gaze. Their eye contact doesn't feel like connection. It feels like interrogation. Your subconscious recognizes you're being scanned, not seen. Subtle contempt. You might catch a fleeting smirk or an eye roll directed at someone else they deem lesser. A waiter, a junior employee, a stranger on the street. Your intuition sees this as a preview. It understands that the contempt they show for others is the same contempt they will one day show for you. Energy vampirism. As mentioned, you simply feel depleted. Healthy interactions are reciprocal. They either energize you or leave you neutral. An interaction that consistently drains you is an interaction where you're giving far more than you are receiving. Theory is one thing, but the true power of this test is revealed in the real world. Let's explore a few short vignettes to see how it plays out. Example 1. The perfect partner. Sarah went on a first date with Mark. On paper, he was perfect. He was a successful architect, witty, handsome, and he hung on her every word. He complimented her intelligence, laughed at all her jokes, and spoke of his desire for a deep, meaningful connection. His persona was flawless. But as he spoke, Sarah felt a persistent, cold knot tightening in her stomach. Her logical mind argued with it. He's amazing. Don't be ridiculous. You're just nervous. She ignored the signal, the result of her 5-second test, and went on a second date and a third. Months later, the flawless persona began to crack. Mark's attentiveness revealed itself as control. He would subtly belittle her career choices, isolate her from her friends, and when she tried to express her feelings, he would masterfully twist her words until she was the one apologizing. He was projecting his own deep insecurity and need for control onto her. The cold knot in her stomach that first night wasn't nervousness. It was her intuition screaming a warning about the unintegrated shadow of a deeply controlling man hidden behind the mask of the perfect partner. Example 2. The supportive colleague, a new manager, David, joined the team. He was incredibly charismatic and full of praise for everyone. He bought coffee, remembered birthdays, and offered to help with everyone's workload. His persona was that of the ultimate team player. But during a meeting, when a junior colleague received high praise from the CEO, one person noticed something. For a fraction of a second, as David was clapping, a flash of pure, undiluted resentment crossed his face. It was a micro-expression, gone in an instant. This observer's 5-second test registered it not as a thought, but as a jolt, a sudden feeling of inauthenticity. It was a momentary leak from David's shadow, a deep, envious part of him that couldn't stand to see others succeed. Months later, it was discovered that David had been quietly taking credit for his team's ideas and subtly sabotaging the projects of those he saw as competition. The supportive mask hid a ruthless ambition, and that single, fleeting expression was the only warning anyone got. Example 3. The life of the party friend. Everyone loved Alex. Alex was the center of every social gathering, a magnetic storyteller who made everyone feel included. The persona was one of boundless charisma and fun. But a close friend began to notice a pattern. In the whirlwind of the party, Alex was great. But in quieter, one-on-one moments, this friend felt a profound sense of emptiness emanating from Alex. They also noticed how Alex's jokes often had a target. They were subtle put-downs disguised as humor that left the other person feeling slightly smaller. This was classic shadow projection. Alex, likely battling a deep-seated feeling of worthlessness, maintained a sense of superiority by subtly diminishing those around him. The friend who performed the 5-second test felt this not as a conscious thought, but as a feeling of being emotionally drained after their hangouts, and a lingering sense that the friendship was performative, not genuine. Eventually, when this friend went through a genuine crisis and needed support, Alex was nowhere to be found. The charismatic persona had no function when real, selfless connection was required. So, the 5 seconds are up. Your body has given you a signal, a red flag, a yellow light, a feeling of unease. What happens next? The test is not a final judgment. It is not an excuse to be rude or paranoid. It is a crucial piece of data, an invitation to proceed with caution. Here's how you move from detection to protection. First, trust, but verify. Your primary task is to honor the signal. Do not let your logical mind immediately talk you out of it. Your intuition is a product of millions of years of evolution. Your analytical brain has only been a social operator for a few thousand. Give your intuition the respect it deserves. Acknowledge the feeling and simply say to yourself, "Noted, I will proceed with awareness." You are not condemning the person. You are protecting yourself. Dismissing your gut feeling because you can't immediately explain it is like turning off a smoke detector because you can't see the flames. Second, adopt the art of observation. After the initial 5 seconds, your job is to become a neutral observer. You are now gathering evidence to confirm or deny your initial intuitive hit. Pay close attention to the patterns we discussed. How do they treat people over whom they have no power? Watch them interact with a waiter, a cashier, or an assistant. A person's true character is often revealed in how they treat those who can do nothing for them. Listen for inconsistencies in their stories. Do their words align with their actions? They might speak of honesty and integrity, but do you notice them cutting corners or speaking poorly of others behind their backs? Look for patterns of projection. When there is conflict, is it ever their fault? Or is it always someone else who is crazy, dishonest, or too sensitive? A healthy person owns their mistakes. A toxic person exports them. Third, deploy boundaries as a shield. The ultimate defense against toxicity is not confrontation, but strong, healthy boundaries. The 5-second test gives you the early warning you need to establish these boundaries from the very beginning, when it is easiest to do so that a boundary isn't a wall to keep people out. It's a gate that you control. It could be as simple as limiting the amount of time you spend with a person. It can mean keeping your conversations professional and avoiding personal disclosures. It can mean saying no without guilt or lengthy explanation. With a person who triggers your internal alarm, your boundaries need to be clearer, firmer, and non-negotiable. They're the practical application of the wisdom your intuition provides. Finally, connect it to your own journey. Ultimately, this entire process connects back to Jung's grand concept of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming a whole, authentic, and integrated self. Recognizing and protecting yourself from destructive personalities is not about judging them. It is a non-negotiable act of self-love and self-preservation that is required for your own psychological growth. Every time you honor your intuition, you strengthen it. Every time you set a boundary based on a gut feeling, you're telling your deepest self, "I hear you, and I am on your side." This practice is not just about avoiding others. It's about becoming more fully yourself. By honoring your intuition, you are honoring the quiet, guiding voice of your own soul. The 5-second test is not a recipe for a life lived in fear or suspicion. It is the exact opposite. It is a tool for empowerment, a way to move through the world with a quiet confidence, knowing that you are equipped with an ancient and reliable inner compass. It's about relearning to trust the most sophisticated psychological instrument you will ever own. Your own integrated psyche that in a world filled with noise, with meticulously crafted social media profiles and flawless public personas, it has never been more important to be able to sense the truth that lies beneath the surface. The loudest voices in your life will always be external, clamoring for your attention, your energy, and your validation. But the truest voice is the quiet whisper of your own intuition. Learn to listen to IT. IT knows the way.